Make This Make Sense brings together three professors and dynamic guests to unpack
the systems, trends, and social dynamics everyone is confused about,
with the women who actually understand them. With your hosts,
entrepreneurship professor Dr. Colleen Robb,
entrepreneurship instructor Annie Stout,
and blockchain instructor Kelly Werder.
Jess Ramos is a double certified trauma-informed yoga instructor. She has been practicing yoga for 11 years and teaching since 2017. She specializes in Vinyasa and trauma-informed yoga and studied under the Yoga to Transform Trauma program with the late Catherine Ashton.
Annie, we're back. This is exciting. Very excited for the next guest.
Right.
This is your yoga instructor, right?
It is my yoga instructor who has helped me so much to find peace throughout lots of change. And she is the most calming force, non-judgmental, and really kind human being, like that kind heart that you can connect with. So I'm really excited to speak with her today.
Oh, this is going to be amazing. And again, it's just the two of us in the studio today because Colleen is dealing with some pet emergencies. So it's just us today. But let's bring Jess up to the stage and get going. And welcome, Jess, to Make This Make Sense. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
We're excited to have you.
We're excited to have you here.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Of course.
I mean, normally I was just saying, I see you in a dark room and I'm kind of in the corner over where. So it's totally different to see you in this format. It's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I know. It is cool. It is cool. I love it.
And I have been, so since I started doing yoga with you a couple of years ago, one thing that I've noticed is this non-judgmental, very kind-hearted spirit that kind of comes into the room before you teach, and then you kind of maintain that for the whole time, which is really difficult in yoga. Do you want to talk about, well, first introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you see your role as a yoga teacher.
Yeah, so my name is Jess. I have been practicing yoga for 11 years, and I've been teaching for about 9 years. My guru, Catherine Ashton, she was a trauma expert and a renowned trauma therapist back in Chicago. That's where I'm from. I'm from Chicago. And when I started practicing yoga, it really, really, really shifted my entire perspective and really, really changed my life and changed the trajectory of my life in a really big way. And so I started practicing yoga, and it really started shifting things for me, really started changing things for me. And so then I decided to do my teacher training with Catherine. And I did my basic 200-hour teacher training, and she kind of took me under her wing, and she, we call her the trauma mama.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah, she's just such an expert in trauma. And so she really kind of pushed me to do the trauma training. And so I teach all of my classes, no matter what I'm teaching. I try to teach all of my yoga classes from a trauma perspective. And
which is probably why I love it so much.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it really does bring a different vibe to the way that it's taught, because what trauma-informed yoga is, I mean, all yoga helps to heal trauma, but trauma-informed yoga is about the way that it's taught. And so many times when yoga is taught, if it's not from a trauma-informed perspective, it can come off as a little bit more kind of like military style, or just kind of making sure that you're focusing on only the yoga poses. There are certain ways that it can be taught where it can kind of trigger trauma instead of heal it.
Wow. I have lied on the floor and cried in your classes before, just the tears, in terms of that piece. So go ahead.
Right. Yeah. So the way that it's taught can either trigger trauma or it can help to facilitate the healing of it. And so the way that I try to teach and show up as a teacher is just trying to hold space to facilitate the healing of trauma instead of triggering it. And instead of you going backward in your practice or almost maybe even getting scared away from yoga altogether, it makes you keep coming back to the mat so that you can help to heal yourself of whatever, whatever you are dealing with, whatever you need to heal from. Many times, like especially for beginners, because yoga is it brings you to a very vulnerable place many times. That's why we cry on the mat, and that's why we have these emotional experiences on the mat, because you're kind of bringing the unconscious into conscious, right? So you can have a very emotional experience, and if the teacher is not holding space for that, you can get scared, or you can get brought right back into that place where your trauma came from, and you can really be like, I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to do yoga again. It didn't work for me, or it was, it was kind of scary, or it made me cry. It made me freak out. It made me hyperventilate. But if the teacher is holding space for that, then it can really bring you to a safe space and help you to heal that. So that's kind of how I try to show up in all of my yoga classes, just holding space, really, just holding space.
That's so interesting. I wonder if, people try out different teachers all the time and then, bond with the one that I think is working for them. And you saying like, I'm holding space for you. Like I can feel that in your classes. And I didn't really know what it was until you just identified it.
Yeah.
That's, I was like, oh, that's what she's doing. She's holding space. Like that's pretty cool. That's, and
I've never heard of this type of approach to, like, I've never heard of trauma connected with yoga. Like it's just not something I've come across before. And I've done various types of yoga through the years, but more just focusing on the, physical or meditation, et cetera. So that is so interesting to me. How did you first go in that direction? Like what attracted you to that type of yoga, teaching that type of yoga?
Well, it was really, I will always bring it back to my guru, Catherine, because she's really the one that kind of opened my third eye to all of this, right? So she, I started practicing with her, and she also teaches all of her classes in a trauma-informed way as well. So she's also holding space. And so when I started practicing with her, it kind of, the way that she would teach and the way that she would explain things kind of started to answer these questions that I didn't even know that I had, right? So I kind of started making these connections in my own life experience, my own trauma, because we all have trauma, whether it's trauma with a big T or a little t. We all have things in our life that we need to heal from. And so me not even really ever thinking about that or ever really acknowledging the things that I have been through as a human, the way that she taught really started, again, to answer these questions that I didn't even know that I had. And I started to make these connections in my life of like, oh, that's why I do this, and that's why I behave this way, or that's why this happens to me. And so it kind of, I started to get so enveloped in that study, the study of trauma, that she kind of saw that in me, and she really took me under her wing and was just like, let's go deeper. And, I did her trauma training, and then she would always just like give me books and be like, here, read this book. This will keep you busy for a while. And just like, she would do things like that for me. So that's kind of how I got there is, I guess my unresolved trauma in my life, when I started getting answers to that, and I started healing from that, that was the shift that I felt in myself and in my life. And I started to make better decisions, and I started to make more healthy, I started to create more healthy patterns for myself because of that, the information that I was getting and those answers that I was getting. And so that's what kind of kept pushing me towards that direction of really studying the study of trauma and teaching yoga in that way.
Love that. That is just so interesting. I just never heard of that before. Sounds like she was an incredible teacher as well from a teaching perspective.
She was.
Yeah.
She actually passed away in 2020. But she made a really big impact in the Chicagoland area. She's the founder, or was the founder, of Yoga to Transform Trauma. She worked with a lot of different organizations, mostly with women. A lot of different organizations for just doing a lot of really, really great things in the community. And she just made a huge impact on that whole area and the way that teachers in that area teach yoga. So yeah, she was amazing. Absolutely incredible human being. I will always honor her as my guru, my teacher that really taught me most of what I know.
Amazing.
What is a guru? Like, I know people throw that around. What do you think a guru is?
Well, there's I guess you can think of it as almost like a chain.
Okay.
I guess, there's the sages, the ancient yogis, and then there's the gurus. A guru is typically somebody that has been practicing and teaching yoga for decades, more like 30, 40, 50 years.
Okay.
And then there's the teachers, and then there's the students, so it kind of gets passed down this link, this chain of this, because yoga is an ancient practice. It's been, it's documented to be anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 years old. So it kind of, like I said, there's the sages, the ancient yogis, and then the gurus, the teachers, and the students.
Thank you for explaining. So can you tell us about the importance of breath work and how women that are listening can kind of use breath to go into a stressful situation or to come out of one? I was at a conference recently and they were talking about there's a breath work strategist that actually does corporate training utilizing breath work. And I didn't even realize that was a thing. And then she was explaining to me that if you use these techniques when you go into the situation, that you'll have better outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely there's so many different breathing exercises that you can do to give you a certain effect, right? So if you're wanting to boost your mood, or you're wanting to boost your energy, or if you're wanting to calm yourself down, there's so many different breathing exercises that you can do to get your desired effect. And we can go through some of those later.
Cool.
But yeah, breath work is so important for so many different things. I feel that, we don't realize that the quality of our breath really does affect the quality of our lives. And because it's not something that we learn in mainstream society and mainstream education, your breath is just kind of there. It's almost like blinking. You don't even really think about it. You're just kind of breathing all of the time. But because of that, we don't realize that controlling your breath or using different breathing exercises can give you a desired effect on your health, on your mood. A deep breath is literally a signal to your nervous system that you are safe, that all is well, and that everything is right in your external environment. And so that once your nervous system gets that deep breath and it starts to, I guess, trigger your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the nervous system that will calm you. Once you activate that nervous system, then you get that grounding effect, which can help you in so many different aspects of your life. If you're walking into a stressful situation, if you're having to do something like this where you might be a little nervous or something, or if you have a lot of stress in your job, or you have a lot of stress at home, you're having trouble sleeping, you activate with your breath and different breathing exercises, you activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and it grounds you and it facilitates, health and rest and digest.
That's
very
great.
conscious of my breath right now.
I know. As you were talking, I'm like, I'm just like, it's helpful.
Yeah.
I thought about And I think,
we don't really realize that, again, because we're not taught this in mainstream society,
right,
how often when we have stress or tension or really any heightened emotion, we tend to hold the breath. Like, you know, we get angry or we get upset and we're holding the breath, we're tensing up. Or even if we get excited, you know, we're like, I'm so excited, and you hold your breath, you know. And this actually comes from a pattern that has not been unlearned from literally the caveman days. Talking about trauma, in the caveman days, when you're getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger or whatever is out there, and you're hiding behind bushes and you're holding your breath to keep yourself safe, to not make any noise, that is literally a pattern that we have not unlearned from all the way back then. And again, we haven't unlearned that because we're not taught how to utilize our breath in mainstream education and society. And so most people are not really practicing yoga and not practicing breathing exercises, you know? So it's like this pattern of holding that causes stress and tension, and it just keeps kind of spiraling from there, you know?
So you said it's made an amazing difference in your own life. Have you seen it make a difference in other women's lives?
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, you know, when you heal yourself, you heal people around you. You know, when I started practicing yoga and I kind of started to make all these really big changes in my life, everybody, you know, my family, my friends, they were like, what is this? You know, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And after a while, after they kind of witnessed the changes and they kind of felt the vibe, a lot of people around me were like, you know, I kind of want some of that. I want some of that yoga.
Kind of contagious, yeah.
Yeah, it's contagious.
Yeah.
And so, you know, my partner, he started practicing yoga and breath work, and now he's a yoga teacher. My
Awesome.
family, they practice yoga now. My friends will always show up to a class and practice yoga because you see the benefits, you do, and you want some of that. So absolutely, I've seen a lot of changes in a lot of the women and everyone really in my life, you know.
One thing I love about your class is that, you know, I've had like some injuries since I started practicing with you, and it is perfectly okay for me to lie on the floor in a dark room in the corner and just, you know, like you said, take up that space. And I think it's rare. You know, there have been some classes where I feel like extremely competitive. There's one particular instructor that I'm like scared to death of because it's just he's standing on his head, and you know, I'm just like, this is not. So I'm wondering if, like, for people that are new to yoga or new to breath work, what advice do you have for them?
Well, just keep showing up. And at the end of the day, we're hoping, right? We're hoping that a yoga teacher would never force you to do anything that you aren't comfortable with or that you are not ready for. So just keep showing up. It's your practice at the end of the day. And everybody is at a different level of practice, and everybody also has different anatomy and different strengths and weaknesses. So comparing ourselves is a really big kind of issue that we all kind of deal with, even as a teacher, even as a long-term student or practitioner. You always kind of, you know, you can see somebody doing that headstand or doing that advanced yoga pose, and you're like, I've been practicing for 11 years. Why can't I do that? Or you start to judge yourself or this and that. And then you feel like, is this for me? You know, is this where I'm supposed to be? But absolutely it is, because it is your practice. It is your journey. You don't really know what injuries somebody has had in their body that is restricting themselves from doing certain poses, or you don't know even the length of your limbs is going to determine whether you can get into certain poses or not. You know, you can look at somebody's downward facing dog and see that their heels are touching the ground, and you've been practicing for however long and your heels still don't touch the ground. And that could just be because of your anatomy, which you can't change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like your bone structure, the length of your legs, the length of your torso, the way that your weight, maybe you're more top heavy or bottom heavy, you know, and all of these things come into play. So I would say just keep showing up, do what you can, and leave the rest. And always make a commitment to yourself to do what is comfortable for you at each passing moment. Because even what you were able to do yesterday, maybe yesterday you got into a tree pose and you were able to balance with your eyes closed. And then the next day you might have something on your mind and you can't balance at all and you keep falling over. And that's okay. That's part of the practice, you know? So just keep showing up and just do you and leave the rest.
Great.
I love that. I mean, I haven't done yoga in a long time, but I used to do it pretty regularly, like 30 years ago. And it was always interesting to me to be in a room where there were some men who are very athletic and they struggle with this because of flexibility, right? And I am not athletic, but incredibly flexible. So there'd be certain things that like very easy for me. And they'd just be like, how can you do that? And I can't, like, and I'm just like, oh, I was just born this way, you know. It's like, but there's, you know, everyone has their strengths and you know, things they can do and they can't. And I, you know, always love when there's a, you know, at the very beginning, a lot of times the yoga instructors will say that, like, you know, don't judge yourself. You're go at your own pace. Like if this isn't, you know, get in child's pose if this particular move isn't working for you or whatever. And I love that about yoga in particular, because you don't see that in other types of athletics of any kind or like, you know, activities of any kind. Most of the time it's like, this is the way you do it and you just have to go as hard as you can. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll even, you know, talk about my own personal experience or just one pose that I struggle with. Crow pose, you know, like I said, I've been practicing for 11 years, and crow pose is like, it's so hard for me. I still can't get into this posture. And it's considered a beginner's level arm balance. And I see people at a beginner level, I see some students and they get right into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, like, what is that? But again, it's your experiences in your life, the way your anatomy is, your fitness level, your flexibility level, what you're dealing with, you know, whatever emotions or whatever you have going on in your life, in your head. And there's so much that goes into it. There's so many variances of how your practice shows up on the mat that day that you really cannot judge. You really cannot judge yourself and compare yourself to other people's practices. So yoga is beautiful.
I didn't mean it, but I think that's so important. I think that's so important because we are comparing and judging all day, every day. And so if there's like a safe place that I can go for an hour and not do that, I tend to fall back into it where I'm like, well, that person could do that. And that, where you're so great at what you do is you remind us throughout. And I've taken other classes where it's like, that's said at the beginning, but it's throughout, like, wait a minute. I wonder if your trauma experience kind of crafts your instruction in terms of the reminding and cueing.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. It does. Because in order for you to have any type of healing at all, you have to feel safe.
Yep.
You know, and your nervous system, at the end of the day, your nervous system has to feel safe in order for you to kind of be comfortable to push past your boundaries a little bit. If you want to try a more advanced posture or you want to go deeper, sometimes it's scary to go deeper because you're like, I feel like I'm going to break, or I feel like my tendon is going to tear or something, you know, whatever it is. And you have to feel safe to kind of push past it a little bit. And if you feel like you're being judged, or you feel like you're being compared, or you feel like the teacher is just kind of whipping you through postures and going really fast or whatever it is, you're not going to feel safe enough to go there. And so 100% that is part of my trauma-informed teaching, to remind you that you are in a brave and safe space if you're curious. If you're curious to go there, because you don't have to. Standing on your head and doing crow pose is not necessary to your yoga practice at all. You don't ever have to do that. It's just if you're curious and if you wanted to go deeper into your practice. I just want to create a safe space for that to happen.
Is there anybody that is, are there centers for trauma-informed yoga still going on? I know they are in Chicagoland, but Are there any here in Florida? What are your experiences?
I've lived here for like 4 years, and I
Yep.
haven't really found a whole lot of that here
Mhm.
in the Southwest Florida area.
Mhm.
Now, that's not to say that they don't exist.
Sure.
Maybe I'm just not aware. But
Mhm.
so far, I haven't seen a whole lot of that. It's kind of hard to find. But I do teach some trauma-informed classes. I teach some trauma-informed classes at like a therapy center.
Mhm.
But it's more like a traditional like talk therapy office where
Mhm.
there's a space where I teach. Sometimes I'll teach a trauma-informed yoga class there once a month. I actually haven't taught there in a couple months or a few
Mhm.
months, but
Mhm.
that's really the only space that has been open for me that I know of to teach an actual labeled trauma-informed yoga class. But I mean, no matter where you find me, I'm always going to teach from that perspective. But as far as like getting actual labeled trauma-informed yoga, I haven't really found that so much in the Southwest Florida area. I'd be really interested to find somewhere where that does exist.
So you could create it. That's what we do. We teach entrepreneurship. So I mean, sorry, let's do it.
Be the change.
Yeah, exactly. So many women hold tension and stress in their body without even realizing. When you notice women and I'm reading a question I wrote down. When you notice women carrying that onto the mat, what shifts do you see when a woman or man for that matter finally puts that down? Can you see a physical shift or an emotional shift?
Yeah. You can tell with the breathing.
Mhm.
If somebody you can hear and see holding patterns, and you can hear breathing patterns, and you can also, if somebody starts to have tears, they're letting something go. If they might start to even yawn or cough, or there's certain ways that the body lets go of energy that kind of lets us, the yoga teacher, know that there is a shift happening, something is happening. So like I can hear if somebody is holding their breath or if it's getting stuck or caught. And when I hear that, then I'll often say, like, keep your breath smooth, try to keep it flowing. And then right away you do see that shift of and then once you take that exhale, or again, like a lot of times we're holding our arms up, and a tendency is we hold a lot of tension in our shoulders, because we hold the weight of the world on our shoulders.
Right.
So you can see when people are bringing their shoulders by their ears, and just a simple cue, relax your shoulders down towards your waist, and you can almost see the whole class soften, and it's just looking at the body and seeing certain holding patterns, listening for the breath, and watching for like emotional shifts. Absolutely, you can see all of that and hear it and feel it too, especially if you're really connected to the flow of energy in the class. You can feel it. Absolutely. Yeah.
So where do women mostly feel it? You said in the shoulders. Where's another
I
area?
always find myself going like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta pull that down.
I would say your shoulders, your hips, and your jaw.
Your jaw.
My jaw. Yep.
I always do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously hips, because women we have a lot going on down there. So we have, we're going through birth, or we are going through our menstrual cycle, or there's a lot of energy flow in that area of the body. So obviously the hips, you can, for your shoulders, you can use the analogy of holding the weight of the world on your shoulders. We, as women, we have a lot to do. We're working, we're taking care of our pets, our kids, we're being the project manager of the household, the secretary, we're running the schedules, we're doing so much, the cooking, the cleaning, and whatever else we have to do. We're doing so much that we hold a lot of that in our shoulders, trying to hold everything, and then the jaw, So the jaw and the hips are very intimately connected because energy flows in and out of those parts of our body. Like, you know, we have the mouth, the airway through our nose, and this is energy coming in. And then for educational purposes, energy comes out, you know, through those openings down there, whether we're going to the bathroom or having a menstrual cycle or giving birth, right? So because there's energy flow in your mouth and your nose, and there's energy flow in the downstairs area, this tends to have kind of like almost like a clog if you're not processing that flow of energy, right? So it can almost like, it's like a cerebral constipation, if you want to call it. You know, you can get kind of clogged up in these areas here and that area down there, if that kind of makes sense. That's kind of more of like a yogic way to look at it. But yeah.
It's pretty fascinating, actually.
Yeah.
I had never thought of it like that.
No, I hadn't either. And I'm very much I've had times where I've had a little bit of TMJ. Like this is where I
all the time.
I hold a lot of energy there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, our face, you know, just so much. There's a lot of places, and everybody is different, but I would say that those 3 areas are probably the most common.
How do you deal with so I mean, some might say a little ADD, I'm high energy, I'm an intense human being. I have a really hard time like turning it down. Do you find, how do you do that? Like, how do you bring 30 people into a room and get them to turn that off and keep it off for like an hour?
By just keeping myself grounded. Because and creating, not only holding space, like what I was talking about earlier, but creating the space. You almost have to like create a concealed space. And you have to, because when you really think about it, you know, if I'm teaching and I'm out of breath and I'm speaking really fast and I seem like I'm nervous, that's going to translate to you as well. And you're going to feel nervous and you're going to start breathing fast and you're going to be like, what's going on? You know, it's not going to translate. So when I walk into a room, and there's, you know, that many people, or even if there's a small amount of people, I have to keep my voice, I have to keep myself calm. I have to breathe myself. And I almost have to like kind of control my own energy in a way that I can translate that energy to the class so that you can stay calm, the class can stay calm, you know? So really it's just about knowing how to run energy, you know, if that makes sense. Because again, like I said, you can kind of feel when somebody is nervous, or you can kind of feel when somebody is like high energy and they're going all over the place. And you're like, what the heck? Like that person makes me feel crazy, or that
their nervous system is on fire. Yeah. So
yeah. So you can feel energy is transferred, even if you're not aware of it. You know, you're feeling of people around you and they're feeling you. So I know that, being a yoga teacher and knowing that when I walk into a room and I'm teaching, I have to really ground myself so that I can transfer that grounded energy to the space.
Yeah, I would think people are going to pick up on you as soon as on your energy, and that probably helps them adjust if they come in really like this. So I can imagine.
Well, we do that in our classes all the time too. And it's so interesting. I didn't realize that I was doing that in my class. You just mentioned it. So when we're up in front of, you know, 30 students, younger students, we have to do the same thing, like set the tone, remain in control, because if they sense that, you will lose them. So it's kind of interesting. We're all educating in the same way. It's kind of fascinating to me.
It is absolutely fascinating. You're facilitating the energy, right? You're the one that's kind of running it. You're kind of controlling that energy. And like you said, if you're all over the place, even if they're not conscious of it, they're picking up on that subtle energy of whether they can control you, or whether,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
whether they're going to be calm, or listening, or and keeping them engaged even too.
Right.
There's so many energy shifts that, like you said, even you didn't even realize you were doing it, but you were. It's energy. It's all energy, and even if it's subtle, it's there.
Love that. Annie, do you have any more questions? I want to do some, can we do some breath work?
Yes. Can we do some breath work?
Can we
Okay.
do some
Yeah,
breath work?
absolutely.
Like, I would like, we can't really do any yoga, but we could do some breath work.
We can do some breath work.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of there's so many different breathing exercises. Oh my God, there's tons. And if you were ever looking for something specific, you can get on YouTube and say breathwork practice for sleeping, or for my menstrual cycle, or whatever it is. But one of my favorites is called Nadi Shodhana. And I've heard this pronounced a few different ways, but Nadi Shodhana is what it's called. So for this breathing practice, it's a breathing practice that slows down your breath. And as your breath gets slowed down, your thoughts start to slow down, because oftentimes that's where stress comes from, is we have an overwhelming, where our thoughts are so overwhelming. We have literally thousands of thoughts in a day. And so when we start to get overwhelmed, it's when we have so many thoughts, so many things that we're thinking about. So this breathing practice slows down the breath, and in turn, it slows down the thoughts, which promotes calmness. So we're going to sit up nice and tall here.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me adjust. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason why we sit up tall is because when we're slouched, or when we have bad posture, it actually shuts down our airways up to like 30%.
Wow.
And our lung capacity up to like 30%. So when you sit up tall, you can breathe more, and you can breathe more optimally. So we are going to take our right hand, and we're going to place, this is also done in a few different ways too, but we're going to do it this way. You can place you're going to leave your thumb out, and you're going to leave your ring finger out, and you can place your pointer and your middle finger on your forehead.
Okay.
And we're going to plug our right nostril with your thumb, and you're going to take an inhale through your left nostril. You're going to plug your left nostril with your ring finger, release your right nostril, and exhale out the right. Inhale through the right, plug, and exhale out the left. Inhale through the left, plug, and exhale out the right. Now you can just keep going to your own pace. So you're going to inhale through the right, plug when you're ready, and exhale through the left. And just keep going just like that. We'll go for a few more moments here, or a few more rounds.
So when I do cover images for this episode, yeah, it's going to be totally this. I almost started laughing because I was looking and I was like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing for the cover image.
And I am so Annie that I stopped halfway through.
I saw that.
And I'm like, shoot, get back in the game,
okay.
girl. Like, what is everybody else doing? What, like, and then I was like, you're, this is exactly what you just talked about. You needed to stop and follow directions and just be in that space. So I still have some work to do.
That's part of the practice. That's part
Yeah.
of the practice. And yoga is really about awareness at the end of the day. It's becoming aware of our patterns. That's the first step, is becoming aware of those patterns that we have. And then we use the practice even more deeply to change those patterns. So you even being aware of it, that's yoga. It did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah. Don't have to beat yourself up. Just be like, all right, that's where I was today.
Yeah. You were like, that was good. Okay, I'm done.
Tomorrow I'll be better.
Yeah, exactly. You leave the rest.
Yeah.
Leave the rest.
That.
So what?
That was awesome.
That was so
awesome.
What do you like? Where can people find you? How do people come to a class? All that good stuff.
So I am in Southwest Florida. I'm mainly in the Cape Coral, Fort Myers area. I teach at a few different studios and gyms as well. You can find me on Facebook, Jess Ramos. I have my schedule on Facebook as a pinned comment on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram at Jess Ramos 108. But we'll
make sure all that's in the show notes so that people can find you.
Definitely.
Perfect. Yeah. If you're in the Cape Coral or Fort Myers area and you are a member of Crunch or Wellway, I teach yoga and another fitness class at Crunch. I teach Zumba at Wellway. If you're interested in dance is really also amazing too as a healing component. And also, let's see, as for studios, if you want to come to Cape Coral Yoga and Pilates or Thrive Yoga and Wellness, I'm also there as well.
Amazing. This was so great, Annie. Thank you for
Absolutely.
Thank you for getting this guest. She was
thank
incredible.
You for agreeing to do this, Jess. I just happened to ask you. I'm like, would you like to do this with us? So this was incredibly cool that you could join us.
This was great. This like really, I need to get back into a practice is what this is going to inspire me to do. So so thank you for that.
And I need to
it's been a long time. It's been a long time, but I used to be like I used to practice on a regular basis and I haven't in a long time. So time to get back to it. This is perfect.
Yoga always says welcome back. So
love that.
Love that.
Welcome back.
And I think there's only one way to end this. Namaste.
Namaste.
Right?
Thank you so much for inviting me. This was a really great time. I'm super happy. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
I absolutely
it was awesome.
loved it. Thank you, Jess.
It was awesome. Thank you, Jess.